Hello and good evening, everybody. Today is January 27th, Saturday. And guess what? Today is podcast number 10. And for us to celebrate number 10, we're going to be talking about you wasted your what? You wasted your life. Now what? You wasted your life. Now what? A lot of us are in a rut, and a lot of us feel like we have wasted our life and we don't know what to do. And so I'm going to discuss 3 ways for you to be able to get out of the rut and to think clearly in your mind so that you can be supercharged and have all the tools with you in order for you to make the right decisions and plow forward and live the life that you absolutely deserve. Now, this is a 10th podcast, and I've done a podcast every single day, and it hasn't been planned. It wasn't planned at all. So I am a living proof that what I'm about to say today is something that I apply and something that you can apply as well. I'm going to discuss a lot of it in detail. So, but I mean, the podcast is around 10 minutes long, so it isn't that long, but I've done some research and I think you're going to like this one. Before we continue, this podcast, of course, has been sponsored by Spinati Dentistry, and Spinati Dentistry is a wonderful cosmetic and family dental practice located on Hyde Park and Sarnia in London, Ontario. They serve really greatly, and they've won a lot of accolades from the 2024 Consumer Choice Awards to the top 3 dentists in London, Ontario, to the number 1 dentist in Rate MD's. They're great, and you will absolutely love them. So check them out if you're looking for an experience that you haven't had before. Now back to the podcast. How do you get out of this thought, this rut of you thinking to yourself, I've wasted my life. My life is a waste. My past really ruined me. Whatever it is, whether it's a relationship, whether it's your childhood, whatever it is, okay? We all get into this rut. We all get into this mind, this thinking. Now, I'm going to discuss with you 3 ways, okay? 3 very, very practical ways for you to get out of this rut so that you can start thinking clearly and be able to move forward with your life. Now, the first one, I'm not going to waste any more of your time with anticipation. The first one is to think of time as relative. The relativity of time is a powerful thing. Now, the reason why we don't think in terms of the relativity of time and we sink towards the past is because of the concept of the path of least resistance. How does this work? When you think of the past, you're actually going towards the path of least resistance because it is incredibly easy for you to think backward because, as they say, hindsight is 20/20. And so if you think of the past, you can think of the past all day long and hate yourself and hate whoever it is that was involved in the past with it. But for us to actually want to think for the future becomes incredibly uncomfortable, doesn't it? It becomes insanely uncomfortable because it is uncertain. And so we start becoming fearful and we don't know what to expect. And, we start becoming, a little jittery because we don't know what to expect. Now, Michael Jordan, who, if you've been listening to me so far, I've mentioned him a few times. Michael Jordan has said that he loves the future because tomorrow is uncertain. And he mentioned it in a good way and in a bad way. And he said that anything can happen tomorrow. No matter what anyone says that tomorrow's, and he's talking about the game, of course. He's talking about the game of basketball. But in the game of life, anything can happen. But the thing is that we do is that we base our current circumstance and then we extrapolate it towards the future. And we tend to think, our present equals the future or our past equals the future, which is even worse, which is not even true. What the smart way of thinking about it is in the relativity of time, in that whatever you think time is going to be, you're probably wrong. And so there are other things that dictate the future, and we'll get into that. Now, with regards to relativity of time, it's really important to think of one concept, which is your health. If you are currently watching this and you're healthy and you're able to walk and talk and move your hands properly and have minimal to no pain and able to drink water and go to the bathroom without any problems, i.e. you're healthy, then you have to think about what this next phrase is. An unhealthy person I messed it up, but this is live. So that's why we do not do any edits with this podcast. A healthy person thinks of 1,000 wishes. 1,000 wishes. A healthy person has 1,000 wishes, whereas an unhealthy person only has one: to get better or to get well. And that is the big difference between time and the way that you think about your current circumstance. And that if you think of your current circumstance as something that you cannot control, then you will always go backward. But once you are in a situation where you are unhealthy, all of a sudden now all you care about is to get better. You're no longer thinking of the past. Now you are actually thinking of the future because you want to get better. So relativity of time is really cool. And Albert Einstein said that, and he mentioned this as an example, and he said that when you're spending time with a nice girl for 2 hours, it seems like 1 minute. But when you put your hand on a stove for 1 minute, it feels like 2 hours. And that feeling is what drives our life. Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela was imprisoned for 27 years unjustly. He was unjustly imprisoned for 27 years, not 27 days, not 27 weeks, not a year, not 2 years, not even 7 years, 27 years. So if you were imprisoned unjustly for 27 years, you would definitely think to yourself that your life is over. You would definitely think to yourself, you hate the government, you hate the system, you hate everything, and you're going to come out incredibly bitter. He came out and changed the world. He came out and changed his community. And this is why we talk about him to the present, because he had a relativity of time that was correct, and that he understood that time doesn't dictate, or the past doesn't dictate the future. So that's the first thing, relativity of time. The second thing, which follows with the relativity of time, is a locus of control. There's this book by Carol Dweck called Growth Mindset, and she is a very well-known author in this field in psychology with regards to growth mindset versus the mindset of fixed, which she calls a fixed mindset. So she says that there's two different kinds of people in this world. There are the growth mindset people, and there are the fixed mindset people. The fixed mindset people have something called an external locus of control. They are the people that think that no matter what they do, it's their circumstances that dictate who they are. It's their circumstances that dictate how far they can go. It's their genetics that dictates what they can do. Those are the people that have an external locus of control. Those are people that say, I'm not born in a rich family. I don't have an education. I don't, I have all these things that I have to do. They create all these excuses as to why they're not achieving what they need to achieve. Or they think to themselves, I'm just not good enough. No matter what I do, I'm just not going to become good at that. Those people have a fixed mindset, but they are a category of people. There are a different category of people who have a growth mindset and who say to themselves, I can do whatever it is I need to do. I just need to put time and effort into it. Now, the really cool thing is that Eleanor Roosevelt said that no one has the power to make you feel inferior without your consent. No one has the power to make you feel inferior without your consent. That means that you yourself have the ability to choose. You have your ability to do whatever it is you need to do. You have that internal locus of control because you have that choice. Once you recognize that you have that choice, then the choice of the future, which is the relativity of time, like when you're thinking of the future, you're thinking of, I can do whatever it is I need to do because the time is relative. I have an internal locus of control and I can do anything I want. One thing that you should really be aware of, and I've mentioned this before, is that you are your biggest hater. That's right. It's not the person that's messaging you online. It's not the comments, the hate comments that if you are to be online, that they're going to, ruin your chances of achieving whatever it is. Or it's not even the people that are talking about you behind your back. It's not them either. It's you. You are your biggest critic. You are the biggest blockade towards your future, towards the future that you deserve, towards the future that you desire. You are the person. Now, here's a really good example of this, and actually the exact opposite of that example. Steve Jobs. Okay, we all know Steve Jobs. If you have an iPhone, you know Steve Jobs, the late Steve Jobs. What most of you probably don't know is his story. He created this company, Apple, amazing company, grew it. Obviously, at that point, because it was so big, he has a board. Okay. And so there were some problems within the company. And believe it or not, he got ousted. He got kicked out of the company. He created the company and then he got kicked out. Now, imagine you created a company that became successful and then you had some problems within the executive and they voted you out. Okay. They kicked you out of your own company. How miserable would you be? You would be incredibly miserable, wouldn't you? You would say to yourself, why me? I did all of this and I don't deserve this. Guess what he did? He came out of Apple. He founded a bunch of other companies, some of which failed, but one of which you probably know about, which is Pixar. And he partnered up with, with Disney and whatever, and he made it into a really good company, but he learned a lot during that process. Apple at that time started to fail, and so they brought him back, and lo and behold, Apple is one of the biggest companies in the world. So he has an internal locus of control. He has time relativity. Now, what's the third ingredient for you to get out of this rut? Is for you to take immediate action. For you to take action immediately, like right now. And the best way for you to take an action right now is for you to grab a book and a pen and just write down one thing you're going to be doing for the next week. One thing. And just keep doing it over and over again. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter what it is. People ask me, they're like, I don't even know what I want to do. What should I do? I'm like, pick something, anything, just do it. So an example here, because I did mention in the beginning of the podcast that, I am an example of what I'm going to be talking about today, this podcast. Now, I never planned that I was going to do it every day. I didn't, but I bought all this equipment and I thought to myself, well, it would be a real shame if I just stuck to the conventional one podcast a day and then kind of try to assess myself and try to grow. The growth would be so slow. It would be incredibly slow. And I wouldn't be able to test different ways of speaking, or I wouldn't be testing different topics, or who's paying attention to what, and what's trending, and how I should be speaking. Should I be speaking low? Should I be speaking fast? Should I be speaking in a tempo? I wouldn't be able to assess any of that. None of it. How many times do I blink? How many times do I lick my lips? The reason why I'm doing it every single day is twofold. One is so I can give you as much benefit as possible because I've gone through a lot in my life. That's one. And the two is so that I can improve my podcasting skills. My podcasting skills is a direct correlation. There's a direct correlation between how much time I spend podcasting and reviewing the videos and analyzing and researching on how to improve these podcasts versus not doing that. So that's why I'm doing it every single day. So that's me taking an action every single day. I literally did not plan it. I didn't say to myself, hey, look, I'm going to get all this equipment, get all the lighting. I'm going to get this camera. I'm going to get this microphone, and I'm going to sit in front of here and I'm going to plan one podcast a day, and it's going to be called this. If you guys watch my podcast from the beginning, I even told you, I'm like, I didn't even decide what I'm going to be calling it. And then later on, I said, well, look, I already have a brand of Discover with Spinati. It's great. I can do a lot with it. So I'm just going to continue it. I know I had it on pause since 2020, but I decided, hey, what not? I mean, what's the worst thing that could happen if I continue? I already have a little bit of a following. So I decided that I'm going to stick with Discover with Spinati, and maybe I'll change it in the future, maybe not. But right now I'm just playing with different logos and trying to see what logo I want to put, because the current logo right now I need to change. But that's okay. That's okay. So getting back to the main thing, and I'm just telling you from my own example with regards to, relativity of time. I could easily have said, my goodness, I'm not going to tell you my age. None of you know. I am, whatever my age is. I've wasted so much time. How am I going to do all this stuff? I could easily doubt myself and say, I'm not really good at speaking. I blink too much. I pause too much. I'm not as good as other people. I could have easily hated on myself and put myself down, which sometimes I do. I'm human. I could easily have said, no matter what I do, I'm not going to get good at it. This is the locus of control. I could have really done the exact opposite of what I'm trying to advise you for you to get out of this rut. But I didn't. I decided that I'm going to become a great podcaster. I decided I'm going to become one of the best podcasters. And so I decided that for me to do that, I have to make a lot of mistakes. And the only way for me to make a lot of mistakes is for me to do a podcast every single day. And I even thought to myself, I said, what if I do 2 podcasts a day? And I had people message me, and some people, more than just one person, messaged me. And even some people were telling me, when they heard that I was doing a podcast every day, they're like, that's too much, and you shouldn't do so much because not a lot of people are going to be watching it. But they're missing the point. The point isn't for me to gather all these views and for people to watch. I mean, I would love for you to watch and for you to benefit. I would love if even one person watched and one person benefited so that they can change their life to the better, and they can say, hey, I watched this podcast. I don't even remember what it's called, but this person said this. They had a strange name, spaghetti or whatever. And I learned this from them. And so then they could tell their story, and then they can change their life and change other people's lives. I would love that. Okay. But the whole point is that I'm focused on what I can do with my life. And as a consequence, you're listening. Hopefully at least one person is listening to this. You're listening to this, and hopefully it will make even a small impact in yours as well. Now, with regards to the example of the greats, such as Kobe Bryant or Michael Phelps. Okay, now with regards to taking action, the importance is for you to make sure you do this every single day. Whatever it is that you need to do it every single day. Kobe Bryant, the late Kobe Bryant, practiced daily 4 times a day. And we're not talking about 4 times a day like he did four sessions of 40 minutes or 4 sessions of an hour. No, he did 4 2-hour sessions every single day. And listen to this. He did it from the hours of 4 a.m. to 6 a.m., and then 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., and then 2 p.m. to 4 p.m., and then 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. every single day. And he said that the reason he did that is because he wanted to get ahead of his competition. And that he has calculated that no matter that if he does this every single day throughout the entire year, after 5 years of doing this, no matter how much time his competitors are going to spend training during the summer, they will never catch up to the amount of time that he's spending training. So he'll always win. And that's why we still talk about him. Kobe Bryant. Michael Phelps, the most decorated human in Olympic history. Michael Phelps. Believe it or not, he used to train every single day, at like no weekends, no Christmas, no New Year's, no days off. Every single day he trained religiously. And I mean, if you know Michael Phelps, you know that he did 2 to 3 of a competitor's swimming workout a day. 2 to 3 times the amount of work a competitive, an Olympic swimmer does. He did 2 to 3 of those every day for 5 years straight. And that's why he became the most decorated human Olympian, because he put so much time into it. He did more, he put more time into it than any other competitor, period. And that's why he became who he became. So take this as a lesson, is that if you're trying to get out of a rut, you have to understand that it takes time. And so then you just have to put in a lot of time. When someone says it takes time, it doesn't mean that you have to wait years for you to see an improvement, for you to see the results that you want, for you to actually get the result. It just means you have to put in the time. It just means that you have to sacrifice a lot of things. You have to sacrifice, maybe sometimes you have to sacrifice a bit of sleep. Maybe sacrifice, going out on Fridays, going out on Saturdays, going out on Sundays. Maybe you sacrifice relaxing. You have to do a lot of these sacrifices. You cannot listen to your inner comfort zone that says to you, you're tired, you've worked a lot. Who does this? When your mind tells you who does this, who's crazy enough to do this, you have to look at your mind. You have to tell your mind, I am crazy because I need to achieve this. Okay. So yes, you have to become a little crazy for the normal standard. You have to go above that standard in order for you to become the successful person that you deserve to become. And lastly, Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison, famously known for inventing the light bulb, and his quote, he said, I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that didn't work. So if a man spends years failing at one thing, you don't think that at some point they're going to give up? How many times does it take for you to give up? How many tries does it take for you to give up? How many attempts until you say, I've tried everything? Well, I mean, if Thomas Everson applied that rule, we probably wouldn't be hearing his name. Someone else would have come up with a light bulb, wouldn't they? So those are the three things that you can do to get out of the rut, for you to get out of this thought that you wasted your life and that you have nothing else to do. These are the three tools that help anybody get out of the rut, get their mind in a very clear, focused zone so that they can do whatever it is they need to do to succeed. And those three things are thing of time in terms of relativity, and that tomorrow is uncertain and it depends on your decision. The second is the locus of control, in that the only person that can stop you is you, and that you will always have the decision to make any kind of choices. And the simplest decision is what you decide to think and how you decide to act towards your circumstances. And the third is take action. Okay, I was going to say practice. Okay, and to take action. So, relativity of time, locus of control, and take action. And I suggest you take action immediately. It'll make you feel a lot better. I hope this helped. And as always, be safe and keep smiling. Good night.